Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. I hope you're doing well. It's Wednesday, June 23rd. Important video today on EIDL grants and EIDL loan increases, including important clarification on is the SBA actually opening up EIDL grants, the 10K and the 5K, to everyone, not just the low-income communities. I'll bring up that report and what we know about it, and I'll share whether I think that's going to happen or not. Plus some positive news on our letter that we sent to the SBA. We gave 3 recommendations to the SBA to Administrator Guzman. I'm hopeful that at least one of them will be implemented in the next week or two. I'm going to pack a lot into this video today. Thanks so much for subscribing and liking this video so other people see it. And be sure to watch until the end. I'm going to start by talking about the reported news that the SBA may open up the $10,000 and $5,000 targeted and supplemental EIDL grants to everyone, not just the low-income folks. Just to give some context here, this is what your SBA portal would look like if you've applied for anything, whether it's the EIDL loan or the EIDL Advance. This is an example of someone who's maxing out. They've gotten 2K EIDL Advance, 8K targeted, and 5K supplemental, and they are confirmed for the $500,000 EIDL loan, but it's still being processed. This is the majority of you are still waiting for your loan increases, but there might be some positive news there. I'll loop back on that. Anyway, this is the money we're talking about, topping up to 10K targeted EIDL Advance, and then potentially getting an additional 5K if you meet another revenue decline threshold. Now, this article by Natalie Walters of the Dallas Morning News, it's been up for about a day or so. So she interviewed apparently Herbert Austin, who's the district director of the Dallas-Fort Worth SBA office. I'm just going to scroll down here and cut right to the chase. He says what we've also heard from our SBA contacts and what we've reported on. Austin said the SBA has sent out emails alerting businesses to the 2 grant programs, but has received a very poor response rate. Again, this is in line with what we've heard from our contact. They've emailed everyone they think will qualify for targeted and supplemental, but people just aren't getting approved. According to the last data we heard from our contact, there were around 1.6 million targeted EIDL applications. But here's the latest report from a week and a half ago. Only 163,000 have been funded. So that's less than 10% of total applicants. So that's one question. Why are only 10% of applicants being approved for this? And most importantly, it's less than $1.5 billion that have been funded for the targeted program. Not even talking about the extra supplemental money, which has less money for it, but just the targeted program. Less than 5% has been allocated 6 months in. I've reported on this, and the SBA is acutely aware of this problem. They can't get enough people approved. That's why 2 weeks ago they opened things up for new applicants. If you apply for an EIDL loan, you may be considered for a targeted EIDL grant, 10K, and then potentially the additional 5K. So a quick PSA, if you haven't applied yet, of course you can go to covid19relief.sba.gov. If you want a loan, if you think it's right for your business, you can read the eligibility requirements right here. Consider taking a loan. As part of that, you may be offered the opportunity to apply for a targeted EIDL Advance, aka grant. But the main point I want to make is that we are in a very unique situation. There is so much money left over for small business owners, independent contractors across the U.S. for targeted 10K grants and 5K supplemental grants, and the SBA is trying to get it out to more people. Let me go back to the article, what Herbert Austin said. People see SBA Advance in the email title and are afraid to look at the stuff they don't know anything about. They fear this stuff, or it's possible it went to spam. So again, check your spam folders. If you see something about SBA Advance, take a look at it. I think most of you watching these videos are aware. You've checked your spam folder and many of you have applied. And there's a second problem there. You're in reconsideration or you haven't heard back. You can't get a loan officer to actually look at the details of your application, look at the discrepancy, and make a decision. So that's the bigger problem in my mind, that there are hundreds of thousands of you who should be eligible to top up to 10K, let alone 5K, but you are stuck in this large bucket of people that are under reconsideration, are still being reviewed. And that's where the SBA does have control. They can bring on more loan officers to review for this, but also for the EIDL loan increases. And of course, that's one of the 3 recommendations we gave to the SBA in our letter, thanks to the thousands and thousands of you who signed our petitions, not only for the EIDL loan increase petition.com, but the one we did a few weeks ago, which was changeeidlrules.com. So much support there, and I know the SBA is paying attention. But the first recommendation we gave was to respectfully ask the SBA to increase the number of loan officers. This is more like internal processes, internal efficiencies, stuff they have control over to speed things up. Yes, there are millions of small business owners in some queue, whether that's SVOG, RRF, EIDL loan increase, EIDL grant, etc. There are millions of small business owners there. I get that it's incredibly difficult to process thoroughly and correctly this amount of volume, but they can do it and they have the funding to do it, so they should do it. Finally, the last thing I want to pull out on this article is the SBA has been told to, quote, aggressively market the grant programs because there are billions left, he said. It also plans to send out regular reminder emails. Austin said the SBA has struggled to inform the public about programs because as a government agency, it's limited on how it spends money on advertising. Okay, that's the big one. That's why the SBA has been more proactive in communicating to YouTubers, to people talking about these programs in earnest, because they do want people to understand the nuances, who's eligible, are there strings attached, what if I have this situation versus that situation. The SBA also hasn't found an efficient way to specifically target low-income businesses, Austin said. Instead, it's emailing EIDL applicants and other email lists at large to reach a more narrow group. So if you've received a targeted or supplemental EIDL grant, consider liking and sharing this video, because chances are there you have friends or colleagues who should know about this program, who should at least be in the running. Because like I said, 95% of the grant's funding is still available. Now here is the piece that I think the author kind of put in. While the two grant programs will eventually open to businesses in areas that aren't low income, Austin said he doesn't have a timeline for when that will happen. Now, yes, we've been pushing for that more than anyone. That's the third point on our letter, changeeidrules.com. We understand that this is actively being discussed at the SBA, and we wanted to lend our support for this. So I know many of you have been speaking up as well. Hundreds of thousands of deserving business owners would qualify if eligibility was based on their income or if they lived on the other side of the street. I've heard that from so many of you. And we had around 20,000 businesses support this petition we did in May. But just to show you again what's actually in the legislation, which is very prescriptive, which is what Isabel Guzman has said, which is what our SBA contacts has said, their hands are tied at the moment, but legislation can be amended. This targeted funding, the covered entity, means that the business is located in a low-income community and has suffered an economic loss of greater than 30% and employs not more than 300 employees. This is right from the law. This is what the SBA works off of. However, now that this has been 6 months since this bill was signed into law, December 27th, 2020, it's now June 23rd, 2021. Congress and lawmakers and decision makers have to understand, look, if we continue at the same pace, we won't get this funding out for 8 years. Think about that. 8 years trying to get out grants that could critically help your businesses right now or 2 months ago, just sitting there because not enough people know about the program. People are stuck in reconsideration or stuck with loan officers, or the rules are too strict and there's unintended consequences there. Not enough people can get approved, people who deserve these grants to support their businesses and support their communities. We haven't heard anything official yet on legislation being changed, but of course we will remain optimistic and keep you posted that more people will be invited, that they may change that provision and open up opportunity for hundreds of thousands of you watching this. Here's what I'm optimistic on the SBA changing in the next week or two. We asked them to increase data reporting similar to the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant report, which includes the timeline for things, how many applications have been submitted, how many applications are pending, aka with loan officers, and how many have been approved. Our SBA contact got back to me yesterday and said, thanks for passing this along. We've passed this on to the data team to take a look. That's a good sign that the data team is going to look at it. So fingers crossed that this week or next week in the next report, we will get more data. So at least we can understand internally what's being reviewed. And like I said yesterday, for some reason the SBA did not do a weekly report last Friday. I can't recall if that's mandated to do weekly reports or that's something they started doing to help with the communication, to help share the progress. But I would assume they're going to have to put a new report up in the next couple days. Let's see if it has some of the new data that I've suggested for them. Again, if you're waiting and you haven't checked your portal in a while, now's a good time to check your portal. Finally, in case you missed yesterday's video, this was an interesting report I did, a new type of video where I talked about the number of views we had over the past year, over 5 million, and what that meant for our channel's revenue. The reason I did that was because we have given away most of our YouTube revenue. You know, last August, we started giving away 100% of revenue in stimulus checks, we called them. The first ones were around 1,200, then we kind of went down to 500, 200, 100. But we gave away tens of thousands of dollars. I'll link to that video above in case you're curious, because in July we're going to start giving away more stimulus checks as part of our Skip for Good initiative. Again, you know we want to give back as much as possible. That's why I do these videos. The other thing I announced, if you want one-on-one personalized support, we were fully booked for a few weeks. We opened up a dozen more spots yesterday. We have a handful left. It can't hurt to check. We do an onboarding call with you to learn about your funding needs and go over any new opportunities that are available for you. We started this because we heard from you. That's what you wanted. So we have a little bit of availability left. If you're curious, it can't hurt to check out helloskip.com/loan-concierge. The link right below as well. But if you do one thing today, I hope you subscribe and go check out our free app, Hello Skip, in the App Store. Let's stay tuned for some more positive news from the SBA, speeding things up, more loan officers, more data reporting, fingers crossed this week or next week, and changes to the targeted low-income community provision. Thanks as always for your support. Most importantly, stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.